Have you ever felt lost, wondering why you keep attracting the same people, the same painful situations, over and over again? Do you ever look at the encounters in your life and feel like it's all just random, meaningless chaos? What if I told you that every single person you've ever met, from the greatest love to the deepest heartbreak, was not an accident? The legendary psychoanalyst Carl Jung discovered a profound truth that changes everything. Nothing in the universe is random. The people who enter your life are not products of chance. They are living, breathing reflections of your own inner world, summoned by a powerful, invisible force known as the law of resonance. They are the keys to understanding your deepest wounds and your greatest potential. In this video, we will unlock this secret. We will go deep into the principles that govern your reality, explaining exactly why you meet the people you do and what these encounters are trying to teach you. This is the knowledge that will allow you to stop being a passive victim of circumstance and become the conscious architect of your spiritual destiny. Before we dive in, I have a quick but important request. An incredible number of you who watch our videos and find deep value in them haven't subscribed yet. If you are ready to understand the hidden mechanics of your life, take a single moment to click that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss these essential teachings. And if this message is already resonating with you, please hit the like button to help this wisdom find others who are searching for it. On that note, I'm curious to see just how far Jung's insights can reach. Tell us in the comments what part of the world you are watching from, so we can see how far this universal truth is spreading. Now, prepare to see your life in a way you never have before. Jung's concept of synchronicity helps us to understand the meaning behind these seemingly random events. Synchronicity is the occurrence of two events in a meaningful connection, without any physical cause and effect relationship. Therefore, crossing paths with someone is not just an external event, but also the echo of an internal calling. The moments we think are coincidences are the moments when the deep texture of life winks at us. The universe always organizes encounters that correspond to the frequency of our soul, even if we are not aware of it. That is why no one enters our lives accidentally. Each encounter is a visible manifestation of our own internal process. No real encounter is common. Each is part of a larger pattern in which our spiritual development is woven, stitch by stitch. What is the law of resonance? The law of resonance is based on the fact that everything in the universe emits a vibration and frequency. When combined with the psychological insights of Carl Jung, this law states that an individual's internal frequency attracts certain people, events, and experiences in the external world. The human mind is fueled not only by conscious thoughts, but also by deeply rooted unconscious beliefs, repressed emotions, and residues of past experiences. These deep vibrations form the basis of the law of resonance. Whatever frequency our internal state vibrates at, it becomes inevitable to attract external experiences into our lives that are compatible with that vibration. Unconscious fears, desires, or hopes are the invisible threads of the web of relationships we weave around ourselves, often without realizing it. The law of resonance is based on the principle that energies vibrating at the same frequency attract each other, just as two sound waves of similar frequency combine to create a stronger vibration. In this context, the people we meet are not just external beings, but reflections of our inner world. When we attract someone into our life, we are actually encountering a part of our inner state in their personality, behavior, or presence. This law also shows that spiritual growth is always reciprocal. As we touch the lives of others, they in turn reflect the invisible aspects of ourselves. Therefore, each person who enters our lives is a response to the frequency we emit on a conscious or subconscious level. Understanding the law of resonance allows us to comprehend not only our relationships, but also our inner world with a deeper awareness. Because true change comes not from changing external conditions, but from transforming our internal vibration. Living with this understanding makes it possible to approach human relationships with more wisdom, unraveling the hidden meaning behind encounters. The meaning of encounters. According to Carl Jung, each encounter is not just a coincidence, but an outward expression of our inner world. Each individual serves a specific purpose in our lives. These people teach us something not only with their existence, but also with their behavior, their words, and their presence. Meeting a person is much more than observing them from the outside. Jung explains the process of individuation, which is the basic principle of individual psychology, through these encounters. To reach our true self, we need to learn lessons from the people, experiences, and events we encounter. These encounters are configured as opportunities that enable our spiritual growth. Sometimes, the person we meet introduces us to a side of ourselves. Perhaps this illuminates an inner quality of ours that we had not noticed before. Sometimes, encounters with challenging people create the necessary conflict for growth. Such encounters reveal our emotional reactions, fears, and limitations. It allows us to truly explore ourselves more deeply. Each encounter can also be considered a kind of reflection. People, like mirrors, reflect the hidden aspects of our inner world, repressed emotions, or suppressed thoughts. Instead of avoiding or being disturbed by these reflections, accepting them and discovering the meaning behind them is an important part of our journey of individuation. Attracting a person into our lives reveals not only the existence of that person, but also the deepest and perhaps most secret corners of our inner world. The people we meet can be companions and guides on our inner journey. However, sometimes the people we meet can become obstacles to our personal growth. But this also has a meaning. Such encounters, as difficult as they are, have the potential to transform us. By understanding the deeper meanings behind challenges and conflicts, we can emerge stronger and more conscious. According to Jung, the relationships we have with people who are not in harmony with our inner world are, in a way, sparks that awaken our spiritual energy. These encounters generally present opportunities for growth and transformation, because sometimes only the most challenging and disturbing people can create real change and awareness in our lives. Each encounter carries an inner message, even if we do not perceive it consciously. This message can be a call to develop a new perspective, break with old patterns, or overcome internal barriers. For example, meeting someone who is emotionally distant and who constantly presents themselves as strong is, in fact, an opportunity to recognize our own weaknesses. Similarly, some people who enter our lives can fill the emotional voids that arise in us, demonstrating love and compassion. As a result, every individual we meet is a teacher and an archetype on our spiritual journey. Being able to understand the meaning of these encounters not only creates individual awareness, but also allows us to become aware of a universal connection, our common ground with humanity. People and experiences are tools that help us understand ourselves as a whole and, finally, to discover ourselves more deeply. The unconscious and attraction. In understanding Carl Jung's psychology, the unconscious is not merely an area where forgotten memories or repressed emotions are stored. It is a profound and dynamic aspect of the human psychological structure. Jung emphasized that the unconscious is one of the pillars of individual psychology and stated that the forces formed in this area shape the interactions of individuals in the external world. The unconscious often operates as an invisible force, leaving traces in our lives in ways of which we are not aware. These unconscious forces are an accumulation of internal motivations, such as emotions, beliefs, desires, and fears. Many people perceive the unconscious only as a repository of negative and repressed memories. But according to Jung, the unconscious is also a source of creative and transformative power. It is not only hidden in the dark corners of the inner world, but it also carries the potential to accelerate personal development. In the context of the law of resonance, the role of the unconscious is very critical, because the vibrations of our inner world shape the people and events that surround us. An individual radiates their spiritual vibrations outward, whether they are conscious of it or not. These vibrations create a force that can attract or repel others. Jung describes this phenomenon as symbolic attraction. Whatever emotions, beliefs, or traumas we focus on in our inner world, we attract people with similar energies into our lives. This works like a magnet, attracting like poles. But this attraction is not just the result of simple physics. It is also the result of a resonance at a psychological and spiritual level. Attraction occurs through the powerful influences of our subconscious mind. Our own internal wounds, fears, or repressed desires lead us to perceive similar characteristics in others. For example, an individual who felt that love was not sufficiently valued in the past may often encounter people who are in need of love and emotionally withdrawn. This situation is a kind of reflection of the unconscious, our internal. Deficiencies transform into a search for completeness in the external world. The gravitational pull of the unconscious not only influences the behavior of individuals, but also manifests itself in social relationships and group dynamics. When people come together, they are influenced not only by their individual desires and conscious thoughts, but also by the group's unconscious. A community vibrates at a certain frequency, according to its collective unconscious impulses, cultural patterns, and social norms. This causes individuals to be affected as a whole, as they absorb social structures, belief systems, and values. This power of the unconscious shapes a person's worldview, their relationships, their choices, and their actions. Jung stated that this power directs people not only towards conscious choices, but also towards processes of self-knowledge and spiritual growth. Therefore, each person we meet is a reflection of our inner world, but also a response to the deep calls of our unconscious. The gravitational pull of the unconscious can reveal to us not only the people around us, but also the conflicts and unresolved issues in our inner world. Each encounter can be an opportunity to confront our own dark side, recognize our inner deficiencies, and take a step towards a higher level of consciousness. This is where Jung's concept of the shadow comes into play. A person can observe in others aspects of themselves that they do not accept, suppress, or ignore. These encounters provide an opportunity for the person to confront the dark aspects of their unconscious. People cannot achieve complete spiritual development without acknowledging the shadow. Therefore, each individual we meet can be a kind of master of our unconscious. It deepens our inner journey by presenting us with aspects of ourselves of which we are not aware. This power of attraction works not only in a personal sense, but also in a universal context. Each individual echoes their own unconscious vibrations into the external world. This is also part of a universal resonance. People and events unite through this resonance, and each encounter allows a purpose to be found in the universe. Encounters for spiritual growth. According to Carl Jung, each encounter is not just a personal relationship, but also an opportunity for our spiritual growth. The people who accompany us in different periods of our lives are not just external interactions. These people appear on our spiritual journey as teachers, guides, and sometimes as challenges that complicate our journey. Jung argues that the difficulties humans encounter in the process of individuation are, in fact, an important part of personal development. True spiritual growth occurs not only in easy and comfortable moments, but also when facing obstacles and internal conflicts. Each encounter is an opportunity for change. It triggers our spiritual evolution in a way that is sometimes challenging and sometimes stimulating. Pister. Jung's words. The concept of the shadow represents aspects of ourselves that we do not recognize or of which we are not aware. And confronting these aspects is an important stage of our spiritual growth. The shadow often reflects our most troubling aspects. But without confronting them, we cannot achieve true freedom and inner balance. One of the biggest factors that hinders spiritual growth is denying or ignoring this shadow. The people we meet often throw this shadow in our face, illuminating our inner darkness. Encounters for spiritual growth are directly related to the deepening of individual consciousness. Each interaction can bring to light aspects of ourselves of which we are not aware, ignore, or consciously suppress. Such encounters can be considered as events that lead the individual to know themselves and to discover their own limits and potential. Jung describes this process as the individual becoming a complete human being by integrating their conscious and unconscious aspects. This is a process known as individuation. For a person to fully understand themselves and live in inner harmony, the past, traumas, and shadows must be accepted. Spiritual growth begins in our inner world, not in the outer world. People and experiences can be tools to transform us. In other words, each person we meet is a milestone in our spiritual development. These encounters can sometimes have a shocking effect, and sometimes they can have a calming effect. In each case, it brings the necessary teaching for our growth. Another important point is that our relationships with the people we meet actually lead us to seek a deeper self. Carl Jung sees this process not only as an individual phenomenon, but also states that it exists at a collective level. Individual spiritual growth impacts the collective unconscious and creates a transformation within societies. When each individual becomes aware of the transformation within themselves, that transformation also shapes the world around them. Sometimes, when people go through a challenging or disturbing encounter, they see it as a threat. However, Jung argues that such situations are, in fact, an opportunity for spiritual growth. When people see an emotionally challenging encounter as a threat to themselves, they generally miss the opportunity. However, emotional disturbances are an important warning that pushes the person to seek a deeper inner solution and makes it possible for the unconscious to be revealed. A person's spiritual development is directly proportional to how much they dare to step out of their comfort zone, face the challenges they encounter, recognize their own deficiencies and limitations, and move forward with that awareness. According to Jung's teachings, life's difficulties function as teachers. Meeting these teachers, although uncomfortable, leads to true spiritual growth. Spiritual growth is possible not only by confronting internal conflicts, but also by learning the lessons that these conflicts offer. Each person and each experience is a milestone on our inner journey. Jung emphasizes that we should see each person and each situation we encounter as a teacher. These teachers can be challenging at times, but at other times they have a stimulating and inspiring influence. But in any case, these encounters are an essential part of the process of spiritual growth. The inner journey becomes deeper with each person we meet and becomes more meaningful and enriched with each experience. Looking beyond coincidences. Within the framework of Carl Jung's law of resonance, accepting that every encounter that arises in our lives is not a coincidence, and that every event has a meaning is an important part of our spiritual evolution. This perspective requires going beyond coincidences and understanding life with a deeper awareness. Jung argues that coincidences are only seemingly random. In reality, everything happens as a result of resonance. Every encounter, every experience is in some way connected to our inner world, and perceiving this connection guides us to give meaning to life. Looking beyond coincidences consciously leads us to a higher level of perception. Adopting this perspective allows us to understand not only life but also ourselves more deeply. As Jung said, coincidences are the language of the unconscious. In other words, every coincidence is a message, a warning sent to us by our subconscious. Looking beyond coincidences involves discovering the deeper meanings that lie behind them, instead of simply making superficial observations. Every person, every event exists to teach us something. This educational process is often shaped by the functioning of the unconscious. People project our internal conflicts, repressed emotions, and unrealized aspects onto the external world. Looking beyond coincidences, perceiving these messages, and giving them meaning is essential for spiritual development. Being able to consciously look beyond coincidences also requires accepting the cyclicality of life. Jung argues that life operates in a kind of archetypal cycle. Accepting that everything has a purpose and that every encounter has a place in this cycle provides great spiritual maturity. Looking beyond coincidences allows us to focus on these cycles of life and their deeper meaning. Moving forward requires progress, not only physically, but also spiritually. Spiritual evolution requires that we see every experience we have, every person we meet, every event we face as a learning opportunity. Jung states that to find the meaning of life, the individual must make their own inner journey. The inner journey is a combination of conscious and unconscious levels of perception. A person interacts with both the events of the external world and the energies of their inner world. In this interaction, realizing that every external event has an internal counterpart helps the individual to overcome obstacles to their spiritual development. Looking beyond coincidences requires focusing on this deep connection between our inner and outer worlds. The inner world is the source of everything that is reflected on the outside. Therefore, every event we experience is a reflection of our internal processes. Understanding this can give greater meaning to our lives. Looking beyond coincidences can generate awareness, not only at an individual level, but also at a social level. By investigating the collective unconscious and archetypes, Jung revealed common themes that apply to all of humanity. These are archetypes that arise from the common experiences of individuals, communities, and cultures. They are motifs that repeat throughout the history of humanity. Each individual is part of the collective unconscious, and there is a connection between these parts. When people encounter the same archetypal themes, these universal symbols expand their individual consciousness. Looking beyond coincidences allows us to understand these universal connections and common themes in human history. In this way, individuals not only undertake a personal journey, but also deepen their connection with humanity. And so, you have reached the end of this video, but the true beginning of your new reality. The illusion of coincidence has been shattered, replaced by the profound understanding that you are at the center of a web of meaningful connections. Life is no longer something that just happens to you. Every encounter, every event is a teacher, a message from your deepest self, guiding you on your inner journey to truly understand yourself. You now hold the power to see the universe not as random chaos, but as a responsive whole, reflecting the resonance of your inner world. Now that you hold this key, I have a challenge for you. Think of one recent or significant encounter in your life. In the comments below, share the single most powerful lesson that person came to teach you. Your insights will inspire us all. If this journey has illuminated your path, please press the like button to help this wisdom find others who are searching for it. And most importantly, if you are committed to mastering your inner world, join us for what comes next. A huge number of people who find value in our videos have not yet subscribed. Don't let your transformation stop here. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because what we've uncovered today is only the first step. Until next time, remember that life is not made of coincidences, but of meaning that you now have the power to understand.